Hello guys, and welcome to one of my first videos for the newly released 5.4 patch, which was just a couple of days back now. My name is Razor, and I'm going to be showing you hopefully a little bit of a video to demonstrate the new abilities that the patch brought with it and the changes that we are going to be facing in this new season of PvP. And also with the new system, I want to be looking at how the cross-realm arena is going to affect, hopefully, and benefit you guys' rating and your play style, and hopefully you can group with more of your friends. Aside from that, today I'll be talking about mainly the tests that I've been running pre-launch on PTR, and also in the last couple of days I've done nothing else really apart from see how the changes have affected the priest when it comes to shadow, and whether we've had any increase of damage or not. I'm glad to say that before we start, I do want to say that I think priests are still in a good place. They've not been ruined. They've not been, greatly nerfed or even greatly buffed to the point where they're, absolutely, insane. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and as always, if you want to give me a point of feedback, a comment, or if you want to see more of my videos in the future, please do subscribe, and I hope you find this useful. Okay guys, welcome to the tutorial bit of this video, which I'm going to be going through the new changes that 5.4 patch has brought along with it. So here's a few, starting off with the first talent line. There isn't really that much of a change. Psyfiend is now lower on health. Psyfiend actually has now 10k worth of health, but has more resilience. So as you can see here, it only has, 11,077 really, which is really quite low, to be honest. But Psyfiend is not our best ability, I think, on that talent line. When it comes to melee, I think you can really make use of Void Tendrils. Psyfiend does come in handy, but against good players, guys, there is a lot of time when I've seen, especially the many ranged classes who can interrupt at range. For example, Feral Druids, for example, the Shamans, and then there are monks and paladins, and everybody can just interrupt it so easily before it can even cast a first fear. And it really, a skilled priest as well will put it at a range, so it won't actually be affected by any kind of melee interrupts. Like, I'd put it usually up to about there, so maximum range, and then move towards it when I've got a target on me so they can be feared. However, if you see a Feral Druid on you, they'll probably just bash it straight away. It'll put it out of actually casting until it's probably gone. So it's kind of useless. You've wasted a whole global and a whole ability and a whole talent line for nothing. So what I want to go into, guys, is this talent line has more to offer than just than Psyfiend. I really encourage you guys to try Dominate Mind. You might think that Dominate Mind is for healers, maybe for whatever. It's not really very useful unless you've got a lot of time on your hands or you can survive or whatever. Actually, I think Dominate Mind has a lot more to offer than anybody else could think of, because it's the only ability that we have, guys, which is free cast, which means it doesn't have any cooldown on it when it's like other CCs. For example, you have a Warlock's Fear, which has no cooldown and you can cast it until it diminishes completely. It's the same with this. This is the only other ability that we have, which is a CC that we can cast again and again until it diminishes. What does this do? Well, this, guys, buys you time. You don't have to keep using it, but if you did, you can buy a lot of time. You can buy time until your fear comes back off cooldown. You can buy time until your spectral guise is off cooldown. You can buy a lot of time to do anything else. Sometimes it's about survival. It's about staying alive. And if you use this, most of the time you'll end up actually just bringing into account that you're providing time for your other cooldowns to finish before you can reuse them, and actually set up your burst, for example, or even set up something where your teammates and you in arena can actually gain the best advantage of the situation. It also means that you can provide the best control, guys. This is an 8-second cast, so that you can dominate somebody's mind for 8 seconds and you can keep them trapped. This is a long time for any cooldown. This is a long time for any crowd controlling cooldown. And I know only another one which has a similar amount of time, which is blind, and you can already know from probably dueling rogues or playing rogues, how beneficial blind can be. So this, although it occupies you and it means that you can
no longer take control of your own character, but it means you can move around, you can move the opponent around, you can put them in a position where it's difficult for them to move, you can put them in a position where, you know, they'll have to make their way back up to the bridge, for example, in some of the arenas or whatever. So it's a really beneficial ability, and I encourage you guys to go ahead and practice before you start fully using it, because it does take a lot of practice. It means you've got to time your casts before somebody comes in and interrupts you. Psyfiend is taking a hell of a lot of battering since the beginning, when it was casting fears all over the place, which was really nice, and also it had a lot more health. Now it's, you know, it's pretty much interruptible really quickly, and it could probably be killed with a few swipes. So it's not as beneficial as it used to be. Moving on, this line here I'm not going to really talk about that much, because the only real improvement there is the Angelic Feathers now got a 80% increase to movement speed for 6 seconds. Here, from darkness comes light. Now I tried this, and yes, you get a 5% increase to the chance that each vampiric touch will proc a free and instant cast 50% increased damage Mind Spike. However, I still don't find that it procs all that often. I mean, it's 5% more, but 5% is not a lot, you know, and a lot of the time it doesn't really even show that it's proccing more. I think it needs a little bit more. It needs maybe about a 30% or a 40%. We'll put it in line really with other abilities that other classes have, but for this amount of proc chance is not really a big deal. Mindbender is another one that is being buffed. 10% damage increase, 20% mana regeneration increase. It isn't again as effective. I mean, your Psyfiend still hits sorry, not your Psyfiend, your other fiend hits a lot harder because it's a longer cooldown, and it also gives you actually more mana than the Mindbender. Mindbender is an improved version because it's a lower cooldown. You can use it 3 times as opposed to just the once that you use on the other one, and it still isn't very effective when you're bursting. So if you are a DPS class, you probably want to go for the other alternative, which is the other pet that we get. But what this does is it frees up this talent line for you to go for Solace and Insanity. Solace and Insanity has become a very knowledgeable subject to many classes, and they know how to counter it now. They save a CC for it, they save a cooldown, a defensive one for it, so you got to be careful and time it well. I usually do it within the silence. We get one of the longest silences in the game, use it within the silence and cast it. Many classes, for example, even a Death Knight cannot cast Mind Freeze while he's being silenced, so he can't even interrupt you. So, you know, be careful how you use it, but this is definitely still the choice across this talent line. Now guys, there is not much else to talk about when it comes to the level 60 talent line, because it's still pretty much the same. I really was hoping for a bit of a buff to, for example, Angelic Bulwark, you know, to become a bit more in line with other talents from other classes, but it didn't happen. And also Spectral Guise, I wanted it to be a little bit more like a Vanish, less like a kind of a hiding ability, but again it didn't happen. And Desperate Prayer is still at, you know, 30%, which isn't a lot in today's standards, considering that, you know, they've increased our resilience a lot, and they've increased our, you know, health and everything a lot in terms of the armor that we get and stamina that we get with it. For 30%, it's not a lot, you know. I mean, you can really get through that when let's say a rogue is bursting on you or a Death Knight is bursting on you. They can get through that in just one hit. It's not difficult. So again, Spectral Guise is probably the choice for me here. Reason why is because I like being tactical when I'm playing another class against another class, and I like dodging, I like kind of moving around, and I definitely always apply a Shadow Word, Power Word shield, sorry, before I apply Spectral Guise. Why, guys? Because it doesn't break the stealth. Apply this before you apply this, and any dots that you have on you will not break your Spectral Guise. So keep that in mind. In fact, I have a macro for it here where I cast shield and Spectral Guise by pressing the same button to make sure that I have the most amount of time to run away or to actually put a distance between myself and my opponent. Next in line, you've got Power Infusion. I still wouldn't touch really. Twist of Fate, it's not really that attractive anymore. It used to be sometimes in the beginning, but it's not anymore. Divine Insight is still good at 5%. I wish they'd increase it a little bit, but it didn't. But at 5%, it's still quite good. Some people still use it. You know, if you are one of those people that wants to just get out as much Insanity flays as possible, then you probably want to use this. But this is probably the choice for me at the moment because it gives me a boost to my spell damage. It gives me a boost to my very critical haste rating, and it also gives me mana equivalent to mana regeneration. The next is really not changed in terms of level 90 talents, so I won't go into that. In terms of glyphs, guys, I'm going to very briefly go into the glyphs because I want to show you guys a few duels that I did as well in this video, just to show you the little bit of changes and the way I've adapted to using the new talents. Now, this one they've increased and buffed. The Glyph of Reflective Shield now does 70% of the damage you absorb with Power Word Shield to reflect back at the attacker. Now, if you're like me and your Shadow Word Shield, your Power Word Shield, you know, takes in about 85,500 damage, you're looking at about 62,000 damage reflected back at the caster. This is brilliant, you know, and you know, it gives you, say if you're stunned, and a lot of classes are stun or silence you, when they're damaging you, that it reflects back at them, and they can kind of you can put the pressure back on them a little bit, especially if they're about to die and then they put you into a stun and then they start bursting on you thinking they can survive until they've killed you. If you put this on, and make sure you always do, it puts them in a position where they feel threatened and they'll probably end up pulling back. Now again, this is Glyph of Vampiric Embrace, which I'm using, and this is the other critical one because it gives you a massive full heal. Because you know, if you're bursting and using this, it gives you a massive full heal, and it's always one of my best cooldowns. And it also heals your opponents when you're doing, for example, 2s with another DPS, or even if you want to help out your healer in 3s or 5s, or in battlegrounds. It does amazing, and you should definitely have it. This is the third one now, guys, which we got, which was freed up because now the baseline ability for healing within Shadow is just that, baseline. So now we have a free slot, which I've put in a Prayer of Mending glyph, which, I mean, it's up to you really. There are a few that you can choose from, but here you get a nice amount of 6% spell damage reduction. The next one I want to mention is obviously Glyph of Master Spell. If you're facing paladins and you're in arena and you want to help out, you know, I would go for this. If you're facing a mage or a paladin and you're thinking of bursting that person, you should definitely go for this one. And then there's obviously Prayer of Mending and Reflective Shield, which I've already got on there. There isn't really much else that I probably would go for at this point in time because there isn't really that much of a change, and the other ones aren't that beneficial. You know, I mean, you could go probably for Power Word Shield, but it isn't 20%. You know, healing isn't that major, and I think it puts too much focus on relying on your shield when your shield can actually be dispelled. In some cases, so this, you know, you would lose the Glyph of Reflective Shield and you would lose the Glyph of Power Word Shield at the same time. Now, I'd like to thank a few guys who have already come to me with their problems, and you know, I gave them a lot of advice and talked to them about my macro, and they've used exactly what I've put across to them, and they seem to find it very useful. So thank you very much to those guys for all their help and support, and for watching my videos on YouTube. And I want you guys to also feel the same. If you feel that, you know, now you want to show me a few things, or you want to learn a few things about how to play a Shadow Priest, or if you're thinking of raising a Shadow Priest, then please feel free to stay in touch, and I'll give you any type of information or help that you need, because it's all about that. I really feel very, very proud when I see another priest beating another class, really, because I feel like priests, we can really kind of dish out the power, and we're a bit underrated, we're a bit under the radar sometimes when it comes to damage or DPS, but I think we really have a lot to prove. So yes, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be making hopefully another part to this video, which will include some duels. Hopefully I'll be releasing this tomorrow or the day after, so keep checking back for that. And I want to show you guys exactly how I do with this new mind control thing, which I'm very excited about. So finally, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I'll get back to you in the next couple of days. Please give me your comments, feedback, please subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and thank you for watching.